It's funny that despite being a big fan of platformers and the fact that they were very important to me during my formative gaming years, nowadays I rarely play 3D platformers. The majority of the time I'm playing 2D pixel-based platformers, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I just haven't gone out of my way to give modern 3D platformers a try. With the nature of indie games, it's possible to find any and all games to scratch your gaming itch. I really don't remember how I first heard of Lunistice, but I'm glad that I did. Without having to really take a look into what Lunistice has to offer, it's clear that it's very colorful and its visually distinct themes makes it stand out. Much like how some say that you also eat with your eyes, I'm of the belief that the visual appearance of a game contributes greatly as to whether or not it's enjoyable. There have been very simple looking games that I've enjoyed, but it's nice when a game is able to balance a great visual appearance with gameplay. Lunistice is one of those games. The simple fact that Lunistice is a 3D platformer makes it easy to assume what kind of a game it is. Seeing as how 3D platformers make great use of camera angles to contribute to the overall experience, it's highly important that this system is easy to use and almost to the point where it's best for it not to stand out for negative or positive reasons. Unfortunately, at times I felt that I was fighting against the camera angles. As a result of that, I felt that accurate platforming was harder than it needed to be, and this led to numerous moments of frustration. It was even worse when the platforming started to get really intricate and challenging. Thankfully, Lunistice offered a bit of assistance when it came to overcoming this. There were green crystals that turned out to be a great feature to help you reorient yourself when sidetracked. Not only that, sometimes it could even be used as platforms to reach different areas of a level sooner rather than later. I like this feature because it wasn't made clear that it could be used in this way. It was really only after hours and multiple attempts that I realized that I could use them as freely as I'd like. There are still limitations, and it's not like you can beat a level only by advancing on them, but I like their open-ended nature. Seeing as how Lunistice is a game influenced by 90s platformers, it shouldn't be a surprise at all that it clearly showcases elements of Sonic. In particular, these clear Sonic influences were with lengthy running sections and curved tracks. I liked how this led to great cinematic moments that enhanced the overall experience. In particular, this most stood out during the forest-themed levels. They featured great looping designs that stood out when compared to previous levels. It's because the others were more linear. It's through the largely linear levels that it's seen that Lunistice features large levels. Through their size, it's clear that you're encouraged to explore. While I think that's great, I felt that their size led to me missing out on collectible cranes. Chances are that you're not meant to collect all of them in one go, but it's hard not to have that mindset in place when your final score depends on how many you've collected, how quickly, and how many times you may or may not have died. Checkpoints were helpful as progress markers, so I could occasionally figure things out before or after I'd used one. Still, the size of levels would occasionally lead to a bit of confusion. It also didn't help that towards the beginning of the game, some of the levels felt kind of samey. I'm sure that's one of the reasons why different themes were utilized, but even if that was the case, some of them felt too similar to one another. It's possible that this could have been prevented had some of the levels straight up not been included, but I'm sure that others, such as the dev or devs, felt differently. I feel like my opinion towards the levels lies towards the middle of the road. There were some with great level design and themes that left me willing to put up with them over and over again, mainly to achieve a higher ranking, but I still felt that they could have been better. It's because I felt that the dev or devs missed opportunities to fully utilize the extra space in levels. There were tight spaces that occasionally were accessible, but your sense of exploration/skill wasn't always rewarded. Eventually, there were payoffs, but not as much as I would have liked. Lunistice ended up surprising me in more ways than one. Not only because it initially appears to be the kind of cutesy game that you could see a younger female relative play, but because there's more to it besides what's seen on the surface level. Hours after having beaten Lunistice, I came to the conclusion that it has a high ceiling for speedrunning. That's not only necessary during first-time playthroughs of the levels, mainly to get a better ranking, but also because speed alone wasn't the key to success. I eventually realized that efficient route planning would help me get better rankings, but the truth is that I didn't want to go that deep into Lunistice. It's because that really would have required me to go out of my way to experience it, and I was fine with the effort I'd already put towards it. As a result of being encouraged to play as efficiently as possible, I felt that leaderboards would have been a great addition to enhance replayability. That's something that was used pretty often decades ago, and over the last year or so I've realized how rankings and leaderboards can contribute to how a game is experienced and the fun it has to offer. It's one thing to work on improving your ranking because you can see the progress you've made, but I'm the kind of person that feels more inclined to keep trying if I see that I'm performing better than others or I'm really close to outdoing someone. I wouldn't go so far as to say that I'm a highly competitive person, but it's hard not to feel encouraged to try harder when something as clearly understood as a leaderboard is present in a game. As previously stated, Lunistice is the kind of game that offers much more besides what's initially seen. It's clear that it's meant to be a love letter to 3D platformers that were released in the 90s, but it still manages to stand out. I've played a decent number of 3D platformers, but not to the point where I can say that Lunistice is really only reusing ideas / mechanics that were already part of X obscure 3D platformer from the 90s. I'm sure that there are 3D platformer fans out there that want something like that out of modern day retro style 3D platformers, but I'm not one of them. I was pleasantly surprised by Lunistice not only because it offered a satisfying number of hours worth of playtime, but also because it left me wanting more. That's something I can't say about every game I've ever played or reviewed. It's rare for me to complete a game, especially nowadays, and feel like there's more juice to be squeezed from it. If your game can manage to make me do that, chances are that it's accomplished something noteworthy. It's for that reason why I recommend Lunistice and feel that it can appeal to a general audience. How do you feel about games that can be described as too cute? How often do you feel like replaying a game once you've beaten it? Is there an era of gaming where its games still stand out to you? What kind of 3D platformer games do you think I should give a try? If you enjoyed this content, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Thank you very much for watching.